The bulldozers pushed forward again, relentless as they tore through the last of my defenses. I crouched behind the tractor, heart pounding, sweat pouring down my face. Mason's voice crackled in my earpiece. "They're coming in heavy. We've got maybe 10 minutes before they reach the main house." I clenched my fists, staring at the advancing wall of metal and dirt. Every second counted. I knew this wasn't just about land anymore. It was a war for my life, my home, everything I'd fought for. Suddenly a roar tore through the chaos. One of the trucks sputtered, then sputtered again, smoke pouring from its engine. The driver inside cursed, trying to reverse, but it was too late. The lead bulldozer rammed into the fence, splinters flying everywhere. The wood shattered like paper. My mind raced. I had one last trick, something I'd buried deep in the ground, ready to turn the tide. I darted toward the hidden trap, my boots pounding the earth. It was a canister embedded beneath the grass, wired to explode with a deafening bang. If they got close enough, everything would blow. I reached into my pocket, pulling out the remote. "The detonator." "Now," I whispered into my radio. The first bulldozer hit the patch. The ground erupted in a violent shockwave, dust and debris flying into the air. The engine died, the wheels spun helplessly, and the driver was thrown clear. For a second, there was silence. Then chaos. Men yelled, trying to back away from the explosion, but the damage was done. Their momentum halted, and the line of machinery ground to a stop. But the fight wasn't over. From the corner of my eye, I saw figures emerging from the shadows, armed men with gas masks, weapons, and a new plan. They weren't just here to tear down my fences. They'd come prepared to burn everything to the ground if they had to. I knew I couldn't stay hidden much longer. I sprinted back to the barn, heart racing, and grabbed my radio. "Mason, they're coming again. This time with heavy equipment and fire. We need to retreat now." Mason's voice was tense but steady. "Got it. Fall back to the inner defenses. I'll cover you." I ducked behind the thick stone wall, pulling Rusty and Bear close. The firepower outside intensified. I could hear the whine of chainsaws, the clang of metal, and the faint crackle of radios. They weren't messing around anymore. They were trying to wipe me out. Then, over the noise, I heard a familiar voice. "Langley's." "Tom, they're moving in from the east. We've got to hold them off." I nodded grimly. "We'll buy time. Just keep the backup coming." My eyes flicked to the sky. The drones circling above caught movement. More SUVs, more men. They were trying to flank us, cutting off our escape routes. We had seconds before they reached the main house. I readied my flare launcher. Eyes sharp, mind colder than steel. The first of the bulldozers aimed directly at the barn. I fired a flare just as it roared toward us, bright and blazing, hitting the ground inches from the machine. The driver swerved, blinded, and the vehicle lurched to a halt. Sparks flew and the engine sputtered out. I took a breath, then saw the new threat. From behind the trees, a dark figure emerged, tall, massive, cloaked in black tactical gear, with a patch that froze my blood. Federal Asset Enforcement. I froze. This wasn't just HOA thugs anymore. This was the federal government itself. They had sent a team to finish what Horizon Assets started. My mind spun. I had to act fast. I grabbed my radio, voice steady. "Langley, this is Reynolds. They're not just local thugs. They're federal. We're dealing with real government forces now." A beat of silence, then her sharp reply. "Understood, we're pulling back. But stay alert. These guys don't play fair." I clenched my fists. "Noted, but I won't go down without a fight." The federal team moved in, battering rams and cutting tools in hand. They stormed toward the house, but I was ready. From the shadows, I activated a series of decoys, fake traps, sound bombs, and confusing signals designed to disorient them. As they advanced, I slipped into the underground tunnel I'd built months ago. Silent, unseen. I moved through the darkness, emerging at the back of the house just behind their line. "Tom, they're inside," Mason whispered urgently. "We're outnumbered. We need to fall back, fast." I peeked through the window. The intruders had already broken in, ransacking the place. I could see one of them moving toward my safe room. the spot I kept my most critical evidence. I had seconds. I had to stop them. Drawing my weapon, I aimed at the door. A moment of hesitation, then I kicked it open, just as the figure reached for my files. "Freeze!" I barked. He spun around, hands raised, but I knew better. This wasn't just some random trespasser. It was a federal operative. "Who are you?" I demanded. He smirked. "Just doing my job, Reynolds. You're making this worse for yourself." I held my ground. "You're on my land. You've crossed the line. Step back or I'll make sure you regret it." He hesitated, then slowly lowered his weapon. I could see the faint glint of recognition in his eyes. He knew I wasn't bluffing. Before he could say another word, I pressed a button on my wrist. A silent alarm. Outside, Mason's team was ready. They burst in, guns drawn. The federal agent was cuffed, and his team was forced to withdraw. But I knew this was only the beginning. They wouldn't give up so easily, not with millions of dollars and powerful allies backing them. The fight was far from over, and I'd be waiting, because this land, my land, and was more than just dirt and fences. It was my legacy, and I wasn't going down without a fight. The federal team stormed into my house, guns blazing, and I barely had time to react. I dove behind the couch as bullets shattered the windows and splintered the door frame. Rusty and Bear barked furiously, their bodies pressed tight against my legs. Every second felt like a lifetime. I could hear the heavy footsteps upstairs. Intruders, searching, tearing through my possessions, hunting for my evidence. I grabbed the flare gun from the side table. My last hope. I aimed it at the doorway just as a shadow moved into view. "Stay back!" I shouted, voice trembling but fierce. The figure hesitated, then slowly raised his hands. It was a federal agent, but I didn't trust him. Not for a second. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared through the house, an emergency signal I'd secretly wired months ago. The whole place vibrated with the sound, startling everyone inside. Outside, Mason and his team burst through the side door, firing warning shots to force the intruders back. I saw the flash of their weapons, the chaos of bodies and shouting. This was no longer just a fight over land. It was a battle for survival. The agent lunged toward my safe room, reaching for my pillows. I yelled, "Stop or I'll shoot!" But he kept going, desperate to grab what I'd hidden away. I fired a warning shot, the loud bang echoing through the house. He froze, then raised his hands in surrender. Suddenly, the front door burst open. With a crash, a massive figure in black tactical gear stepped inside. No, not just some thug, but a man with the patch that chilled my blood. Federal Asset Enforcement. This wasn't local police or HOA goons anymore. This was the government. He looked at me with cold, calculating eyes. "Reynolds," he said, voice like ice. "You're making this worse for yourself. Stand down." I clenched my fists, heart pounding. "Not a chance," I shot back. "You're trespassing on my land, and I won't let you destroy everything I fought for." He smirked, then signaled to his team. They moved fast, battering down the door to my safe room. I dove behind the kitchen counter just in time. The room filled with flashes of light as their tools sliced through locks and walls. I knew I had only seconds before they got what they wanted. I pulled out the last thing I had, my remote. My finger hovered over the button, eyes fixed on the chaos outside. I'd buried a trap beneath the house, an explosive I'd set months ago. If I pressed it now, everything would blow, distracting them, maybe even stopping them. "Wait," I whispered, voice hoarse. "Just a little longer." I pressed the button. The explosion rocked the house, dust and debris flying everywhere. The blast deafened the room, and I saw the intruders stumble back, temporarily stunned. But I knew they'd be back. Stronger, smarter. The federal agent stormed into the wreckage, furious. "You think you can stop us?" he snarled. "This isn't over, Reynolds. It's only just beginning." I looked around at the destruction I'd caused, heart pounding. This was war now. No more hiding, no more playing nice. They wanted my land. They'd have to take it from me, by force if they had to. Because I wasn't backing down. Not now, not ever. Thank you for your feedback. I understand you want a longer, more detailed and immersive story that captures suspense, twists, and a powerful ending. Let me craft a much more extensive, fully fleshed out chapter that dives deep into the action, with layered scenes, dialogue, and emotional beats, making it truly unforgettable. Here's a full-length, gripping, and detailed chapter that starts from the previous ending, expands on every moment, and leads to a mind-blowing conclusion. The ground trembled violently beneath my feet as the explosion tore through the heart of the silo platform. Dust and debris shot into the sky like a volcanic eruption, blotting out the sun for a moment. I crouched low behind the shattered remains of the wall, my ears ringing from the blast. My pulse hammered in my chest, each beat echoing the chaos around me. I knew they wouldn't stay down for long. The federal team, armed, relentless, with orders to destroy everything, was already regrouping. I saw the leader emerge from the rubble, coughing, eyes burning with fury. His face, partially obscured by dirt and soot, twisted into a grimace as he stared at the destruction I'd caused. "Reynolds," he growled into his radio, voice hoarse but commanding. "This isn't over. We're coming back. And next time, we won't leave anything standing." I clenched my fists, heart pounding harder. I knew what was coming next. They had backup, more men, more firepower. I had only a few moments to think, to plan my next move. The remote in my pocket, the one I'd built and kept hidden all these months, was my last hope. I grasped it tightly, feeling the cold metal against my palm. I pressed the button. Instantly, the earth beneath the platform shuddered and cracked open, fissures spreading like spiderwebs across the land. A deafening explosion erupted from beneath, swallowing the machinery, the trucks, and the men trying to restore order. The shockwave shattered windows miles away, knocking over trees, toppling walls. For a moment, silence reigned. I stayed low, listening for any sign of life amid the wreckage. The smoke billowed upward, dark and ominous, concealing my view. I knew this was only a temporary victory. They would come back, faster, angrier, more determined. Suddenly, I saw movement, figures crawling from the debris. The leader, bloodied but unbowed, was pulling himself up, his eyes locked onto mine through the haze. "You think that can stop us?" he spat, voice cracked but fierce. "You're just a farmer. You're nothing but a stubborn fool." I steadied my breathing, clutching my makeshift weapon, a rusted shotgun I'd kept hidden. "This land is mine," I said, voice trembling, but resolute. "You're not taking it, not today," he sneered. "You don't get it, Reynolds. This isn't just about land. It's about control. The government doesn't like people like you standing in their way. You've made yourself a problem they can't ignore anymore." Behind him, I saw more figures emerging. Reinforcements, armed to the teeth. Trucks with tinted windows, soldiers in tactical gear, all moving with purpose. They'd be back soon enough, and next time they'd come prepared to burn everything to the ground. That's when I remembered the second device, the hidden one. The last line of defense I'd buried deep beneath the silo, connected to a series of explosives I'd rigged months ago. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out a small, rugged remote. My finger hovered over the button. Knew what I was about to do would change everything. "Say goodbye," I whispered. I pressed the button. A series of tremors shot through the earth. The underground device activated, unleashing a shockwave that rippled outward in all directions. The ground cracked open beneath their feet, swallowing trucks, soldiers, and machinery. An enormous explosion erupted from beneath, a fireball of fury that lit up the sky like a second sun. The blast was so powerful it knocked me off my feet. I tumbled to the ground, shielding my eyes from the searing heat and blinding light. When I looked up, everything was chaos, fire, dust, falling debris. The entire platform had been swallowed into a chasm of destruction, leaving only a smoking crater. The federal team was caught in the blast. I saw figures flying through the air, some screaming, others trying to run. The leader was thrown to the ground, stunned but still alive, blood streaming down his face. I staggered to my feet, heart racing. I knew I only had moments before reinforcements arrived. I had to get out, fast. But then, from the shadows, A new figure emerged. Tall, imposing, cloaked in black tactical gear, with a distinctive patch on his shoulder. FEA. Federal Enforcement Agency. The real enforcers. Not just local thugs or corrupt officials. This was the highest authority, the true power behind the operation. He stepped forward, voice calm but deadly. "Reynolds," he said softly, "your fight is over. You've crossed a line. You're a threat to national security now." My stomach clenched. I knew what he meant. I had fought to protect my land, but I'd also angered the wrong people. "You think a few explosions can stop me?" I spat, trying to buy myself some time. "You think I'll give up that easily?" He smirked beneath his mask. "No. But you'll soon realize this isn't just about land anymore. It's about control, power, and obedience. And you've made yourself a problem that needs to be eliminated." I looked around wildly, searching for anything I could use. My eyes fell on the small device still clutched in my hand, the last of my secret weapons. I knew what I had to do. I pressed the button again. This time, the underground device unleashed a final, unstoppable wave of destruction. The earth cracked open wider, swallowing the remaining structures, the vehicles, and the soldiers. An enormous shockwave rippled out, leveling everything within miles. The sky darkened as dust and smoke billowed into the air. The entire site was consumed by a maelstrom of destruction, a crater so deep and wide it seemed to swallow the very planet. The federal enforcer stared in shock, his eyes wide behind his mask. What have you done?" I looked at the chaos, tears streaming down my face. I'd fought so hard to protect what was mine, and now I'd destroyed it all in one final act. But I also knew that I'd made a statement, a message that I would never surrender. As the dust settled, I saw no sign of life, only a vast, silent scar on the earth. I turned away from the wreckage, exhausted but triumphant. I had survived. I had fought, I had won, at least for now, but I knew they wouldn't forget. They'd come back. Stronger, smarter, angrier, and I would be ready. Because this land, my home, was more than just dirt and crops. It was my soul. And no one, no matter how powerful, could take that away from me. I whispered into the wind, "This land is mine, and I will always fight to keep it." With that, I disappeared into the shadows, leaving behind a legacy of defiance, a story that would be remembered forever, a story of one man's unbreakable will, standing against the storm,